recipe is in my cookbook, 99 Ninja Foodi recipes, and you can get a copy on my website, which is www.susannahskitchen.uk. To begin making my focaccia, we need to activate our yeast. So here we go. We've got our yeast here. I need a teaspoon, so I'm going to just measure that out. There you go. Put that in the bowl. And that is the yeast done. And then we want to add some sugar. So I've got some sugar here. We want 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. And then we want 2 tablespoons of warm water. So we're going to grab some water. And the warm water is going to wake this up. So 2 tablespoons goes in there. Lovely. Give that a little stir. Now we don't need to do anything with this apart from just put it to one side, and we are just going to wait for that to activate, and we'll know when it's ready because it's going to go bubbly. Not really bubbly, more frothy, I'd say. Actually, more frothy is probably the better term for it. So I'm just mixing that in just to make sure. Okay, great. Put that to one side and we'll come back. That could take 10 minutes or so. Whilst we're waiting for that to activate, let's measure out all of our dry ingredients. I'm putting those straight into this bowl because this is for my mixer. Just makes it a bit easier to do that. So let's start off with the flour. Now you just want some plain flour. Nothing special here at all. Great, let's get that in. I've got some fresh rosemary here. And I want to chop this up, and we want around 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary. So let's add our rosemary in. That's around 2 tablespoons that I put in there. We need 1.5 teaspoons of salt. It's take a while for me to get this out. Oh my goodness. Now this is a really simple mix here. You can add extra flavors in if you wish to. So for example, you could definitely put garlic in this. You could add some olives into this, some sun-dried tomatoes. There's lots of different things that would go really nicely in this. But I like to just show you kind of the basic, more classic version of the olive oil, the rosemary, and the salt. So I've got a few bubbles and a bit of froth now. That's had sort of probably 15 minutes. So I'm going to pour that in, and we're going to rinse it out with another amount of water. So I'm using 150 millilitres of extra water. I'm just going to put that in slowly. So I've got my dough hook here. I'm just going to keep adding that in little bit by little bit, and you'll see that we're starting to get to a point where we're going to form a dough. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add in some olive oil. This is really going to infuse this dough, make it really nice and rich. Coming together, and it's not looking too dry. I think that is about right. So that's when you stop, when you've got a dough that's coming together like this. So now we need to knead this. So you can either do that by hand or continue with your dough hook on a medium speed. And you're going to want to do this for like 5 minutes or so. So yeah, let's put that back on. So around a medium-ish speed, maybe a little bit less than that. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so that's exactly what you want it to be doing. 5 minutes seems like a long time, but you know, it's going to be worth it. Well, you can really see how much the dough has changed by kneading it. So we're coming up to 5 minutes now. I'm going to be baking mine in this Ninja pan here, and this is brilliant. It comes part of the Ninja bakeware set. It's just really good because the non-stick is amazing. So we are going to be cooking it using this. Let's stop the mixer. Whoa, look at our dough. This looks incredible. Oh, yes. Pleased with the look of this dough. That looks great. So I want to add around a tablespoon of oil in the bottom here. Just going to spread some of that around the bottom. And we're going to put our dough into it with my brush. Just going to give that a little brush with some olive oil like this. Turn it over. Great. It's got olive oil all over it. That is how we want it. Now I want to get my dough inside. So we're going to lower that in on the rack in the pan. Close this, and we want to prove this dough. So there you go. On your first air fry hob settings, you've got prove, and I always do mine on the 35 degrees that comes up, and let's give it 30 minutes. I ended up letting this prove a bit longer because after 30 minutes it hadn't doubled in size. So we've gone with more like an hour on that, and look at the size of that now. That is perfect. So now what you're going to need to do is push this down and make a flat layer like this. Don't worry about knocking that air out that we've created because we're going to be doing a second prove. So let's just flatten that down so it's more or less flat and to the edges. Now what you want to do is you want to make multiple holes in this, and what you want to do is use something to make those holes and go right the way down to the bottom. So it doesn't really matter what you use. I've just got this little wooden spoon, don't know what this came with. So I'm going to make some holes and go right to the bottom like this, and I'm going to do this all over. And these holes will start to close up, but it will then give us those sort of, I don't know what you call them, like the little dips, the little dimples that you get on top of a focaccia. There's no right and wrong really with this. I mean, this is how many I'm doing. You do what you want to do. This is working quite well though, this little utensil. You can use your finger if you want to. Just that I've got long nails, so I probably wouldn't be able to get to the bottom very well. And one in the middle. There you go. Look at that. And then the last thing to do is to put on the last little bit of olive oil. So I'm just going to spread mine with a brush. I just find it easier to get more of an even layer. So this is around a tablespoon that I'm putting on now. Now I think we're ready for our second prove. Right, lower it back in, close the lid, and then back onto prove. So this of course is a little bit of a process, but it's really looking like it's going to be worth it. Look at that. That has really, really puffed up. And as you can see, the holes that we made have just become little indents in the top now. So now, before I bake this, I want to preheat my Ninja. If we go on to bake, the hottest that you can preheat to is 210. On air fry, it's 210, but on grill, it's 240. So that's what I tend to like doing, is preheat it so it's really, really hot on the grill mode. Now when I bake this, I'm actually going to cover the top loosely with some foil, just like this. And then we can get that in on bake. I'm going to bake it on 190 degrees centigrade, which is about 370 Fahrenheit. And that's going to go in for around 20-25 minutes. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on it. Do a quick check. So that has had the 20 minutes. And let's have a little look. Okay, so, oh, yeah, that's looking quite good. Whoops, put my nail in it. It's quite firm. It's definitely getting cooked. We haven't got a lot of colour on the top, but obviously we've had that covered with foil. I think give this another 5 minutes. Still going to keep that covered just for now. And then I'm going to show you what we'll do at the end if we do need a bit more colour. So another 5 minutes on bake. Okay, it's just finishing. So it's had the extra 5 minutes. Yeah, that looks better. Starting to get a little bit of colour. And we've got a bit of a springiness. It's feeling like it's probably cooked, but I'd like a bit more colour. I don't know what you think, but to me it's looking a little bit dry and not much colour. So olive oil, let's spray the top, and I'm going to add a little sprinkle of salt as well. Now I'm going to air fry it. You could grill it. I'm worried that the grill is so strong that it might just be too much for it. So instead of grilling, let's air fry just to finish it off. Let's go with 200, and I don't know how long. When you do cheese to melt cheese, it's like 4 minutes, so probably around 4 minutes-ish to colour that. I'm going to keep an eye on it. It's had just over 2 minutes. Let's have a little check. Oh, yes, golden. That's enough for me. That is exactly as I wanted it. So only 2 minutes is all it needed. Look at this gorgeous focaccia bread. How good does that look now? That looks so much better having put that little bit of spray olive oil, the salt on top. I'm gonna let this cool. I'm gonna poke some bits of rosemary in it just for some extra flavour and make it look pretty. Oh, so pleased with that.